Hey there, hi there, ho there, everyone, and welcome once again to volume 13 of a Disney Compendium. I am your host, JJ, and over there on the other line is my good friend Nick. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to talk about Alice in Chains tonight.
I told you every time we do this, it's Alice in Wonderland. This is like the fourth or fifth time I've said it's Alice in
Uh,
Wonderland. And please
well,
tell me you watched the cartoon and not the Johnny Depp one.
no, yeah, I watched it, and I was like, when are they gonna do Man in the Box? And they never did it.
And that never
So
happened. So,
never happened.
so now you gotta track down the version that you're.
Uh,
There has to be somebody did something. you know,
ha-
there has to be some sort of like Dark Side of the Moon, Wizard of Oz mashup between Alice in Wonderland and an Alice in Chains.
I joke because I like the movie. Yay!
Yeah. So, what? This is 1951. So
hmm
this is just summer of 1951. This is immediately like there was what Cinderella was only a handful of months ago at this point. So, um, but yeah, they're just back in the game. They are
Yep.
pumping out these movies, although varying success. Most of these movies become bigger later, as is the case with a lot of famous works. Like you get to the well, when it originally came out, it didn't make a whole lot of money, but now now after subsequent releases and stuff, it's made its money back, 10 million times over. So, but
Not like a cult following. And like, no, just would you have a VHS? You have a VCR? Yeah, probably. You're gonna watch it a bunch of times.
yeah, actually, this one has a fun like what made it popular. We'll get to it later when we get to like sort of production and aftermath stuff. But there's some fun little factoids about this movie and its sort of subsequent popularity after its release. But um, obviously, this is an adaptation of the Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. Um, and this is not Disney's first go at these movies, at this sort of not movies, but these character. But again, we'll get to that later. Um, but you want to start it off with some plot stuff, or you want me to take over?
Well, I mean, essentially, is this okay? So at the beginning, is this Alice's mom or her school teacher or her
Uh,
who's the person?
I, it's I guess they don't really explicitly say, do they?
Yeah,
It's supposed to be mom because it's like sister later on like towards the end kind of stuff. But
yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with sister then.
yeah, no, because yeah, because her sister's there at the end of the movie, so I would
Yeah.
assume mom. So uh,
Okay. Well, okay. So we'll do mom. So
yeah,
Alice hanging out with her mom under the tree. She and her cat Dinah, who's friggin' adorable.
that's it's just this and Pinocchio are two contenders for cutest cartoon cat.
Yeah, I would say Dinah might edge out Figaro a little bit.
Yeah, I think, and they tend to go back to the Dinah well a few times. Like they use that design over and over again for merchandise and stuff. So
Yeah. Alice, just dreaming of adventure, dozes off and wakes up, sees a white rabbit with a pocket watch run into a tree. She falls down a hole, and
yeah,
goodbye, Dinah, 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 goodbye, Dinah.
yeah, and
And
so that's where we get the phrase "down the rabbit hole." Because,
yes,
so and it's pretty self-explanatory. Like she dives down to that rabbit hole, and it's just one thing after another.
it sets she's falling down, and all these objects are floating past her, so it sets the tone pretty
Yeah,
quick about.
it's a very Wizard of Oz feeling, kind of like
Yes.
the tornado, and
Yes.
I'm assuming that is 100% intentional. Like,
Yeah.
uh, so um, I mean, they have a lot of this. I mean, they're effectively the same story at the end of the day, you know. So very similar, just transport you like unclear of the reality she's in, transported to another world filled with happenings and like craziness and like between this and Wizard of Oz are born of the same DNA, obviously.
Yeah. The difference is Dorothy is born of poverty in this dreaming adventure, and Alice is pretty much born of privilege, it looks like.
Yeah, and as such, bored with her life because what you give the person that has everything, kind of thing. She just wants to do something, but can't because she's just a kid and a rich kid at that. So,
Yeah.
but
So she's kind of restricted in her own way.
yeah, and the whole this movie is just like the visuals of it are just always so striking. Like when you get to the very like the first sort of real craziness with like the eat me drink me stuff,
Mhm.
like just to see her, just the animation of her growing and shrinking is just super interesting to like you don't really see used to back in like the early Mickey Mouse stuff and like the rubber hose kind of like flexibility and like the stretching
Right.
that way and stuff, but to have a sort of like you know a smooth animation of actual height change is kind of like you could see they've come a long way since the early days of how what they were making.
Yeah.
So
It's funny, like I was watching this, like the part where she grows and she cries and floods everything. The part as soon as she looks at the table, I automatically had like Jefferson Airplane playing with. Tell me you didn't think about it at some point.
yeah, yeah, yes, you have to. But it's like I mean, this movie is 1951, so it is it's inspired so much since then that like there's so much pop culture associated with particularly Alice in Wonderland. I think it's
Yeah.
probably of all of the like it's probably one of the it's just this weird example of a movie that's probably more popular for reference than it is as a movie. like
Yeah. Because
because like Alice in Wonderland, like I'm sure like the book was never a particularly big book for like us growing up. It was like because the movie had already existed and was part of sort
right.
of pop culture, and it was like we like there was never one of those like read read the Lewis Carroll books and like write a report. There was never any of that in school for me. So it wasn't until I was much older that because I love Disney stuff, obviously. So it wasn't until much later that I ever read the Lewis Carroll books.
Yeah, yeah. My only right reference was this movie, and then in the 1980s, they made some kind of television or TV movie, which had the creepiest Jabberwocky ever in it.
Yeah, yeah. They. It's weird to see that they like you don't get a whole lot of like after Disney makes a movie, very rarely does anyone want to try to go back to it.
Hmm.
20 years later, then you have some other studios like, okay, let's make our own Alice in Wonderland. But they've done Alice in Wonderland has shown up a few times on in the what early 2000s there was like an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland on TV too. Like I think.
I think you're right. Yeah. Um, it's we've Alice's Wonderland. Like, there's been different interpretations.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, yeah, this movie is just like the White Rabbit signifies, things in our culture more like, the Tweedledee and Tweedledum just became nicknames.
right.
And it's all like, yes, the book is the book, but you have to say that the movie is what created all of this stuff. Like that's what made it, part of the American consciousness. Or even the rest of the world, obviously. But I think Disney sort of holds it different. standing in this country since it's the all American company kind of thing. But uh,
The Mad Hat, the Mad Hatter gave us one of the best Batman villains. There you go.
yes, absolutely. Uh, but and it's easily one of the most exploitable, um, because there's so many striking character designs that can be repurposed for so many different things, like the Cheshire Cat and the Mad Hatter, and obviously Dinah,
And
and
the March Hare even to some extent.
yeah, the March Hare, the Queen of Hearts, uh, uh, the Caterpillar. You see all of these characters getting repurposed all the time for all sorts of different um, purposes, and it really is probably outside of Mickey Mouse and like that gang. Like you see a lot of Alice in Wonderland stuff. It's like a big moneymaker for them, like merchandise wise. I don't know why we're talking about this stuff now. We haven't even gotten to, we got Eat Me, Drink Me, and that's as far as we've gotten in the plot.
Yeah, we haven't gone down the rabbit hole yet.
Yeah, yes, now, yeah, yeah. Well, we have. That's the problem.
Yes.
We've gone right down the rabbit hole, and now we're just going to be inundated with stuff left and right here.
Basically, so at this point, Alice uh, turns giant,
Yeah,
um, and then upon learning she's George Mirashon, she starts sobbing uncontrollably.
yes. That scene always is like, I, it's very upsetting crying. Like I don't know why, but like
My son hated that. He hated it. She's not going to be sad. Like, well, okay.
but yeah, it's yeah. But I'm sure he absolutely loved the once we're introduced to Tweedledee and Tweedledum shortly after all of this crying and growing and shrinking and doorknobs and everything. We get the wonderful tale of the walrus and the carpenter.
I don't think he understood what was going on. He
What
didn't like
happened?
them because they communicated like with bike horn sounds. Like,
Yeah, like it, yeah, sure.
but
But, it's a
my
very
wife told me like she actually read The Carpenter and the Walrus in fifth grade as it was like a poem.
it was yeah, it was just, yeah, it was just like a poem within the universe of like Alice. Like it was a poem written like for the book. Like so, it's it exists. I was impressed, and it makes sense that Disney would adapt that part. I mean, they're not adapting everything when they
No,
adapt their stuff. They're making their own Disney version of a lot of these things, but like, it makes sense. It's a very Disney-like story that they would want to tell, and it gives the animators something fun to draw. I've always liked the design of the walrus. It's very like,
he's a bum.
yeah, I can't look at walruses in Walrus Eye in real life without like imagining them like as bums with little
Yeah,
fingerless gloves and everything.
with just like half a stogie.
Yeah, like
Um,
broken hats and because yeah,
well,
but
here's the interesting thing. Like I'm glad I went back and watched this again because I misremember the whole Walrus and Carpenter thing. I always remember the Carpenter being like being mad at the Walrus for eating the oysters because, like you ate the baby oysters. No, he was mad because he just ate all the food.
yeah, he did. Yeah, he's mad that he didn't get any of the baby.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
essentially.
makes it way worse when you think about it.
Yeah, it's yeah. You know, it when it's written word, it plays a little differently than when you anthropomorphize the little baby oysters and see them in action.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's upsetting. It's an upsetting little visuals that you get with the the walrus and the hamster.
and then
Uh,
Tweedledee and Tweedledum seem to be content on wasting Alice's time.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's very clearly just their goal in this entire movie because
Yeah,
every time they show up, it's slows her down. So, but she does she does finally track down the rabbit at this
Yeah,
point.
and this is the second appearance of Mr. Dodo.
It is. It is
Yeah.
the second appearance. It's I like I like the visual of Alice stuck in the house.
Yes.
It's a very good like gag. This cartoon is just absolutely packed from like pillar to post with just sight gags.
Yeah.
Like it's the whole like the heart of this is just sort of the abstract and like the animators having some fun with some crazy designs and bright color, technicolor, you know?
Yeah. Like you got you for instance you have like her giant figure in the house, and then you have like Bill shooting out of the chimney. Like I feel bad for Bill. Like
Yeah, yeah,
he's got duped by that idiot Dodo.
yeah. He drew a bad hand, and, and then she eats a carrot and it shrinks her down to the size of a bug.
Yep.
That's like once you're in the like once she's that small, like it's like Honey I Shrunk the Kids. Like
Yes.
everything becomes slightly creepier when it's just like, oh, this is just, it's normal, but it's also massive, but also like everything's alive. Which imagine if Honey I Shrunk the Kids had like you know living flowers and stuff.
Oh my god. I mean that ant scene was upsetting enough.
Yeah, but I never liked the caterpillar. It's an irritating character.
Well,
Puffing on
the caterpillar and his hookah.
his hookah pipe caterpillar. Yeah, it's just an obnoxious character. I just it's like okay, that's just nothing happens in this scene. It's just an irritating caterpillar doing its hookah nonsense.
He can blow letters out of his mouth.
Yeah. Ooh.
Oh,
Yeah. Uh, I like that also has a lasting impact on me. Like I just
yes.
remember just like every once in a while a who will come out like who.
Ooh, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
But,
yeah. We're kind of in the middle of like some just really annoying characters. Like, kind of
yeah.
backtracking a little bit. Like, Mr. Dodo's strategy for getting Alice out of the house is to set the rabbit's house on fire.
Yeah.
So we go from that to the just the very obtuse caterpillar.
Yeah. Just yeah. Um but what else? Yeah. Well, yeah, she turns back to normal size,
Right.
Mario style. She takes a bite out of
Yes.
the mushroom. Yeah, exactly.
Now I can't watch that while they're hearing.
Yeah, yeah. So like we need a question. She needed a question mark block to grab that. I think.
Uh, where we have the
Oh
are we
no.
past the dandelion dogs or
Yeah, that would
like
have been yeah, because that was before meeting. That was shortly after she shrunk down to
yeah
get to that size before the caterpillar, I believe.
the dandelions that look like more like fry guys than they did
Yeah,
dogs.
yeah. They look like McDonald's fry guys, but bark like dogs.
Yes,
And like it's again just like very striking visuals. Like
yes.
it sticks with you. You remember those for days afterwards. Those dandelions. So, and if you see this in a season where dandelions are going to be around, you can't you can't help but picture it in your mind's eye when you see a dandelion growing out of the ground somewhere.
Hey Ronald, how about some chicken nuggets?
When did they get rid of all of those McDonald's characters, dude? Like
I want
I
to
know it was
say late
not
'90s.
it's like not it's like it's like the uh you had you peaked with Happy Meal chicken nugget toys,
Yes.
toys
Well,
based on chicken nuggets.
and then you had the changeables,
Yeah, yeah.
the food that turned into Transformers.
I think once they got rid of the boxes of cookies was like it for like that stuff, that the McDonald's characters. So
It yeah, it was a whole thing where I guess it was something like you can't market fast food toward children.
yeah, you can't like it was it's like mascot situation stuff. Like they went too they went too deep down the rabbit hole of
Yeah.
this stuff. Like now you've got movies and video games and toys and stuff, and it's all just directed right towards kids. So
Yeah, and I can't, and honestly, now that you mention it, I can't think of the last time I actually saw a McDonald's commercial on television,
like, well, especially not. I mean, especially not for children. Like,
or for anybody for that
yeah,
matter. I'm seriously trying to think of one.
yeah, yeah. I don't. I mean, also not a whole lot of TV. Everything's just like, McDonald's isn't going to put an ad on Hulu or something.
they're not, yeah, McDonald's not going to be advertising on New Japan World, so I'm probably not going to see it.
Now, yeah, yeah. Now, like, if we were still like on the WWE network, maybe.
Oh God.
But yeah, no, not a whole lot of McDonald's commercials on like for like like in the middle of YouTube videos and stuff. So, but boy, that was sorry. I guess that was has
Eh,
listen. McDonald's is going to come up a lot because they are tied hand in hand with uh this stuff. So with Disney stuff. So
spoilers, JJ and I are both millennials with poor eating habits. So, but we're loving it.
so yeah. On top of that, we both have rather substantial collections of Disney merchandise that were acquired through a McDonald's.
Through McDonald's Happy Meal, which we'll get into later weeks, I guess. But
Very yes. Um, but anyways, I guess we should get back to the movie itself because we're getting
oh,
to
okay.
yeah, unfortunately, we have to get back to the movie for a couple. We're not too. This movie doesn't have a whole lot of plot points. It's all just visuals playing out. Like there's like four. There's technically only like four scenes in this movie. you
Oh
you have
yeah, I guess if you think about it.
yeah, you have the introduction. You have the initial room with the eat me drink me. You have Rabbit's house. You have the unbirthday. You have the Queen of Hearts. That's like so you're, that's really it.
I I blame the unbirthday scene for my love of hot tea as a child, as an adult. It just looked like good tea, man.
Yeah, they do a good job at making tea in this cartoon. They make it look hot, and it's like it's the little simple things that sort of get lost as as people refine the craft and everything. And people, you have to overthink stuff when making a cartoon, especially in this time frame where it's still sort of, even though they've been making movies for what, this is the 50s, so we're getting close to 20 years to making
Yeah.
cartoons, but uh, you're still paying. The devil is in the details, and like later on down in stuff, like if they're drinking a cup of coffee, it's going to be like wispy, like heat, if you see anything,
Yes.
if anything at all. But like with this, it's like pillowy clouds of steam to let you know, like this is hot. This is a hot beverage that they're drinking.
And they're just drinking tons of it.
Oh, just like yeah, it's like a Mountain Dew commercial. They're just slamming this tea left and right.
So this is kind of where we're getting our. Uh, by the way, first of all, we're getting some good voice work here. So now we have Ed Wynn as a Mad Hatter.
Oh yeah, and then like an iconic Mad Hatter role with him.
Ed
Like
Wynn, also known as he's Uncle Albert from Mary Poppins.
yes,
Yeah.
so yeah, very close. Uh, and well, there's something like the March Hare is
Frederick March.
yes, Frederick March.
The-
No, it's the it's the Casey at the Bat guy.
oh, that kind. You know what? Now I can't unhear it.
Yeah, it's the guy that did the narration of Casey at the Bat, which
Yeah,
was made.
that makes perfect sense.
Yes, for those who, for whatever reason, you jerk, haven't listened to a previous episode of Make My Music, they did a adaptation of Casey at the Bat, and The voice actor for the March Hare in this is the narrator for Casey with the Bat. So,
Uh, the best voice work by far, of course, Sterling Holloway as a Cheshire Cat.
absolutely. Uh, Sterling Holloway, uh, like like the Winnie the Pooh voice, essentially he can manipulate it in enough different ways to make anything work, and
It's not too dissimilar from his actual speaking voice, though. If you
yeah,
ever
yeah,
see
it's fun.
him,
Well, and it's funny because like you can, I didn't mention it. I forgot to mention it entirely on the Fantasia episode that we did. But like, if you get the Legacy Collection CD that they put out recently, it has him reading The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and it's like, I'm like, it's like you think for splits, it's like, is he in character? What the hell character is he? But no, that's just Sterling Holloway. He's not. He's
this is just how I talk.
Yeah, he's obviously not reading it as Winnie the Pooh because Fantasia came out, you know, 30 years before Winnie the Pooh came out. So
I'm looking up the guy who did the voice of the caterpillar, and the only thing I remember him being in, he was in Young Frankenstein.
yes,
He was he was the guy who brings Froderick the will at the hospital.
yeah, I think he was in.
Twilight Zone looks like.
I think he was in Sound of Music as well.
You're probably oh, that old thing. Let's see. Yes, he is Max Detweiler.
Yeah,
Okay, now I know who he is. All right,
yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
right.
So, yeah,
He was kind of a big deal.
yeah. I mean, he was in a bunch of stuff, but like nothing ever on the level of this caterpillar for him, his career wise. Like, yes, he was in bigger movies, like Sound of Music is a massive obviously, and he's in the Twilight Zone, which is the Twilight Zone. You can't go wrong with being a feature player in a Twilight Zone episode. but but yeah,
Oh gosh. Oh,
whoop whoop.
you
You're
got me
surprised?
still?
Yeah, no, you surprised me.
Oh, sorry. Uh, Mr. Walrus, by the way, J. Pat O'Malley.
Yep.
Well, well versed in Disney films.
Yes. Yes. They. I mean,
He's going
they.
to crop up here in 10 years, sir.
Yeah. I mean, you get like a lot of um, the voice of Mickey Mouse shows up in this too. He's like this the flamingo voice and the dormouse, the little
That
mouse from the Mad Tea Party.
the one who does the dissertation.
Yes, that's the voice. That's the after Walt stopped doing it. It's Jimmy McDonald. So
You can kind of hear it.
yeah,
I think. Yeah.
I just think it's funny that he's Mickey Mouse and he's playing the mouse in Alice in Wonderland.
You're a new mouse guy.
Yeah, so now you're gonna play all mice, except in Cinderella. We're not gonna give you Cinderella.
Yeah, we got mice.
But yeah, so it's them. It's so back to the movie again. They're
Yeah.
celebrating. They're celebrating. It's an unbirthday party. So celebrating not having a birthday, which as you do, as you are wont to do sometimes. It is.
Which is what girls in their 20s do on Facebook. It's my birthday month.
Yeah, you're celebrating. No, if your birthday's in July, you're celebrating your unbirthday every day until
The Mad Hatter's like, if you want to send me gifts on Venmo, that'd be great.
But it is fun. Like she's just constantly trying to get a word in and just not happening. They are not having any of it. They're singing. They're doing the unbirthday song,
Which is probably the best song from the movie, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. My favorite, anyway.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable. I do love. I do love that nothing ever comes of the scene. She just gets irritated and leaves. Like, what? I'm done with this.
Because she did with Tweedledee and Tweedledum. She's like, all right, we'll see you.
Yeah.
And she just wanders away.
Yeah. But no. Then we go right back to she leaves and just starts crying her head off again.
It's not the ugly cry she had earlier, but it's just kind of a
But now Cheshire Cat shows back up. We never even mentioned the Cheshire Cat appearing in the first place because
Leading her astray.
yeah, uh, sending her to that horrible nonsense tea party in the first place.
Yeah,
Uh, but you have to admit, like every time the Cheshire Cat shows up in this movie, it just commands your attention. It
yeah.
They do such a good job animating it, animating this sort of you know opacity and the transparency of the stripes and like the way it forms and the way it disappears and not
The voice matches the way he looks. Like
yeah
those two things
it's
mesh really well.
yeah it's and I'm like it's a top tier Disney character like design
Absolutely.
wise if nothing else like it's such a good and it's such a like well realized character for Disney in here too. It's probably a character that you understand more than any other character in this movie, including Alice. Like like you don't really like Alice. Like you don't really understand much about like she's
There's not. She didn't have a lot of depth,
no, there's
unfortunately.
no depth here, but like you like with the Cheshire Cat, you recognize sort of like what his deal is.
He's silly, but he's also an instigator.
Yeah, he just he's a cat. He intentionally is trying to get a rise out of
Yeah,
you. He's just one step away of just pushing the drink me bottle off the countertop at the beginning of that movie. Like he was in that scene, he absolutely would have.
yeah,
But
yeah. Chedra Cat's the reason I can't look at like a quarter moon without thinking of his smile.
yeah, it's like just the cat suddenly appearing
Yeah,
because of from the moon in the sky. Like
yeah.
that is one of the absolute coolest bits of animation in this entire movie. It is so striking, and that's the thing that I like so much about um, this particular movie is the animation. Like
Yes.
there's because there's not anything there's nothing here like depth wise for this movie, and that's the point. I mean, that really is. It is about nonsense. Like it is, finding life, and and you know discovering the nonsense of life and things like that. It's
It's it's a
what the
movie about
world.
nothing. Boom,
Yeah,
boom, boom, boom.
thank you, but
You're
no,
welcome.
it's about it's a movie about what happens when there's no rules
Yes.
essentially, and this is what you get all of this. You finally get to the queen who has rules, and it goes real bad for Alice
and
real
and
fast.
and really bad rage issues.
Yeah. There is croquet will never be anything other than this to me. Like,
Just playing with flamingos.
yeah, like, like anytime I've ever picked up a croquet mallet in my life, you think about this scene. Like, you think about grabbing a flamingo and straightening it out and smacking it.
What Alice's flamingo is just like, are you trying to get us both beheaded? Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, what? Don't drag me down with you, man.
It's it's super super weird. I
Um,
don't know what that flamingo's game is, but like
I,
yeah, it's,
the part in this scene, the thing that always stands out to me when I think about this particular scene, it's not the queen, it's the cards, the cardsman.
painting the roses red.
Yes, well, no, or just that look in particular because they've shown up
Yeah,
in some other things. I think
yeah, and you see them like
games. Yeah,
video games and stuff. You see them a lot. Like they're good, like low level Goomba like grunts from Super
they
Mario. They
really
just
are.
they look like one hit kill kind of 16 platforming enemies. Like
You're
they,
just gonna you're just gonna mine the cardsman for XP.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm surprised on in reference to video games that like because the balls are hedgehogs. Like you think they're like I'm surprised Sonic the Hedgehog never. like
Huh.
made a reference to that in some way, shape, or form. Because like you have Sonic Spinball and stuff. Like there are scenes where the character gets like even like the casino scenes or something in those games. Like, do something to make reference to the hedgehogs being used as balls. But no,
And
no.
this is 40 years before Sega did it. So
So, but yeah, it's just yeah this game of uh this game does not go well for Alice here.
well, it was rigged to begin with.
Yeah, but like everything that's in there is rigging the game. Like the cards are throwing themselves in front of her to make sure she makes it through all the hoops, and the animals moving around and not playing fair, and
Everybody's just trying to appease the queen to keep from losing their head.
yeah, because doing the very King Henry sort of off with their heads kind of like very traditional king queen monarchy nonsense with executions left and right.
The king is just this little like sawed off guy who's soft spoken and
Yeah, yeah, very clearly doesn't want to be there doing any of this.
you kind of feel bad for him a little bit.
A little bit, but there's no way he didn't know what he was getting himself into. He knew. That's what he wants. But yeah, then she goes to trial, and it, you get absurd courtroom scene.
Just the character witnesses are just the Mad Hatter and more Cheshire Cat messing with the Queen.
Yes, yeah, just really trying to get Alice absolutely murdered in this movie. Every
Yeah,
step of the way, he's trying to get her, just set her on a path of self destruction,
yeah,
and um, uh, like, the Queen like tells her to leave the courthouse,
yeah,
and then she doesn't, and it's
yeah.
just like a jerk to the like insults the Queen.
Oh yeah, she earlier when she left the caterpillar, she took pieces of the mushroom that made her smaller and larger.
Yeah,
So she remembers, oh, I have these. Now I'm George Mirashon again, or
yeah.
sorry, Manute Bowl,
Now I'm
and now I'm going to talk. Now I'm going to give the queen what for.
yeah, and uh, yeah, and then this is pretty much the end of the movie. Like she gets away, she
She gets away.
gets through the
Uh,
door. That was at the beginning of the movie,
there's this
and
great time machine thing where she's like going through paint
yeah,
clouds.
yeah, just having a Doctor Who moment out there. Yeah, and now all of a sudden she wakes up and she's back home,
Turns
leaving you
out
to
she
leaving you
dreamt
to
the whole
think,
thing.
yeah, maybe who knows with Disney with
Yeah.
these things like
Alice and Doki Doki Panic. She dreamed the whole thing.
yeah, she threw turnip at Wart, and now she's free.
Actually,
So
War actually has resemblance to the Queen if you think about
I
it.
well I mean that's all like intentional kind of stuff. I mean everything that this kind of like dreamland kind of nonsense sort of they go out of their way to sort of play those games once in a while.
I mean, now I think about there's probably stuff in Little Nemo that's kind of similar as well.
Yeah, anything where the person like falls asleep or gets sucked up into a tornado or like everything is going to pay
Yeah,
homage to Alice in Wonderland or Wizard of Oz in some way, shape, or form, and usually both. Um, but we did a very bad job going through that movie because it's very hard to talk about the movie because it's so
well, it's
chaotic from start to finish, and it's hard to like place them where they
there's
need
no
to be.
there's no through line, and like
Yeah,
we said, like Alice is not a character of considerable substance, so it's hard to say this is how she reacts and this is like,
yeah.
eh,
It's her being just sort of pushed through a series of unfortunate events. Like uh, it's just she is the avatar of the character character of the character is just an avatar for you to sort of experience this world of chaos. Yeah, there's no depth to Alice. She has, it's just a cute little blue-eyed, blonde-haired girl that is just happens to be caught up in this world of chaos.
Yeah, and I wish I could say like, oh, her character grows as the movie
Yeah,
goes on, but not really.
I mean, just in a very literal sense,
She
and that's it.
literally grows,
She
but like,
literally grows.
yes,
There's no lesson is learned. There's
yeah,
no there's no like you know sometimes sometimes you do just need to have the silliness in life. You need
yeah,
to but that's not the lesson learned because the silliness led her to almost get murdered. But at the same time, the lesson isn't um, you know uh, just tighten up your bootstraps and just keep going to the status quo either, because they don't really express that in any way, shape, or form. It is just weird things happen, and now she had a dream, and now she's home, back to where she's
yeah,
supposed to be.
and she doesn't even reflect on what happened. Like she's like, oh, it was a dream. Yep. Oh, Alice, you're so silly. Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess so. All right, let's go home.
yeah,
That's
because
the movie. That's how it is.
typically you would get something like, oh, where's that rabbit? What rabbit? That rabbit? You'd see like a real rabbit or something, like
Yeah,
or something. But no, it's just she wakes up and she's like, right, end of the movie.
and it's like, was Cheshire like the stand-in for Dinah, or do we?
Yeah,
Who knows? But like
yeah,
that
yeah.
we don't
No,
have everything else. So yeah,
nope. She just gets woken up. She thanks her sister for waking her up, and they go home for tea.
yeah.
Like that's the end of the movie.
I I just had a very British dream.
Yeah, I had the most British dream you could possibly imagine. Let's have tea, and I'll explain it to you.
The
But
only thing that was missing was the TARDIS and the bubbles from the prisoner.
I, if anything was going to appear in this movie, those bubbles from the prisoner would be the thing that appeared
Yeah,
in this movie. Um, but yeah, so we alluded to earlier that this isn't Walt's first go around with
right.
Alice as a character. Back when he was working at Laugh-O-Gram Studios in his hometown of Kansas City, um, they did a series of movies called Alice's. I forget. I don't know if I think they just were the Alice comedies. They didn't really have
Yeah,
like an
that sounds
overall.
right.
Yeah. But the first one was a little short called Alice's Wonderland,
Yeah,
and it's about 13 minutes. Came out in 1923.
blended
Um,
live action and animation, correct?
yes, it's a real human in a cartoon world,
Yeah,
um, which uh, it because like that was pretty impressive back then. It's like it's still pretty impressive these days to still pull that off as successfully as you can. But think about this. This is 1923. This is years. But Mickey Mouse makes his debut in 1928. At this point,
yeah,
so this
and
is years. Uh,
film is still pretty. It's still pretty new. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. You know, um, Uh, and so, this is sort of Walt's first quote unquote success story, are these series of Alice cartoons. They're not, I want to call them cartoons, but shorts, I guess, are the best way to put them, because
I
they're
mean
mostly,
you're not wrong calling them cartoons either because they're you know
yeah. And the actress in them, her real name is Virginia Davis.
mhm.
Uh, this is pretty much um, her biggest, like her being Alice is sort of that's it. She doesn't really do a whole lot else. She's done a couple other things, and she was in a couple other Disney movies later on in her life. She had, um, but like she like what did auditioning for like some of the voices and like Pinocchio, but
Right.
didn't get hired or anything. Like she never really had much of a career. Like this is the peak of her career in
You
terms of
might.
film.
My guess would be that she only got those opportunities just because Walt like felt like he owed her, maybe.
Yeah, and her parents were pushing. They wanted her to be a child actor kind of thing.
Yeah.
So got all that nonsense. Um, So yeah, those were relative. They weren't successful, but they earned notoriety for
It's kind of
Disney.
what got Walt's career going, though.
Yeah, um, and so that's where. So they're not um, for historical purposes. They're really fun to go back and watch. They're
Right.
not particularly entertaining. Um, that like the gags aren't even all that great. It's just very simple. 1923. It's not too far removed from the earliest Felix the Cat kind of gags and stuff. Like there's not much to it. Just the fact that it's a cartoon is sort of with a real person in them is sort of the most interesting part of it. And the silent era stuff still too. So anything that you watch now is sort of hobbled together based on like what we would have played during this time or something.
Yeah,
It's
this is what you
never
would have heard.
yeah, or this is similar to what you would have heard or whatever. Like you never really fully get the actual experience of what some of these silent era cartoons in particular were about. Some of the other stuff like Felix the Cat or like the Oswald cartoons hold up a little better because um, they don't they don't need the music is just not as important as the gags going on the screen.
Yeah.
So, but in this case, the gags have to be a little more simplistic because they have to interact with a person. So and obviously there's not like now where you could sort of like, okay, so we're gonna have these sort of like you can see where the character is gonna be. Like we're gonna put you and you can look at the monitor and stuff and things like
Yeah.
that. Like there's none of
Yeah.
that. It is you have to animate around the person essentially, and
And
so
the person has to like hit their marks pretty precisely.
yeah, there's no screwing up. There's no um, it's animation is done cell by hand in 1923 still, and it's so they're not particularly fun to watch in terms of something to sit down and power through a weekend of watching Alice comedies. But I think like watching a couple of them, I highly recommend because historically they're fascinating little bits of history for the Disney studio. Um,
We
but
the year before this comes out, we also had the 1 year Wonder 1 hour in Wonderland special, correct?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
where
Um,
we get to see Catherine Beaumont dressed as Alice.
Yes, yes, we did.
Yeah,
Also, this was prior to um, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
yeah,
This was another movie that was like Walt was thinking about making a feature length to it because again, this is sort of something that he's always, it started his career
yeah.
effectively, and he
So
had
he has an attachment to it.
yeah, he has an attachment to it. It's like that was going to be like that was it like it wasn't the major like something happened and so they like we started production of it and so it was like the original plan, sort of like we're gonna make a lot feature length film. Uh it should be Alice in Wonderland. It was just sort of like so
We'll get around to it.
yeah,
Okay, let's just go do that next.
yeah, but the main reason why he didn't do it was because at the same time Paramount Studios was doing a live action adaptation of Alice in Wonderland.
Hmm.
And that was just sort of like, well, we're not going to release Alice in Wonderland like virtually the same year as a cartoon as Paramount's putting out as a film. Um, I have never seen the 33 version of Alice in Wonderland.
I have
I
not either.
I know it's got Gary Cooper and W.C. Fields in it. That's about the extent of my knowledge.
I
To
Is W.C. Fields the Mad Hatter or the
uh,
Walrus?
he's hum-
Because
he's Humpty Dumpty.
because he gave me other. Well, I was like, if he was the Walrus, I could totally see W.C. Fields as the Walrus.
No,
Time has
no,
come.
yeah, and Cary Grant is the mock turtle in
Oh,
it.
I have to look this movie up actually now.
Yeah, it's who is the Mad Hatter? Now I have to look it up. Edward Everett Horton. Uh, Trouble in Paradise. Arsenic and Old Lace.
Sorry, you said Trouble in Paradise. You know what I was about to say. What didn't you?
Yes, yes.
SOS! I hear them calling.
Uh, and he was in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Oh, that's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I
Um,
love.
but yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I actually kind of saw a piece of 1 Hour in Wonderland not too long ago, actually, and it was like pretty much like just a tease for the movie.
yeah. Also, what it would so they didn't do that, but he did make a Mickey Mouse cartoon in
Yeah,
'36 that
right.
was Through the Mirror.
Yep.
So,
And then
which
you get the cards in there too.
yes, you get the cards in there and stuff too.
Yeah.
Through the Mirror is that's one of the like top 10 Mickey Mouse shorts. I think
Yeah.
it is. Um, it's very Mickey Mouse, like especially it's so late in the Mickey Mouse, like so to speak,
Yeah.
because it's '36. So at this point, it's fully in color already, and Mickey Mouse is sort of like Donald Duck and Goofy, and these characters are already sort of taken off. But
The mirror has this weird sticky quality to it.
yeah, it's well, I mean, it has to be hard because that's like something like that kind of animation must be really tricky to just pull off.
Like
Like
walking through a mirror.
yeah, especially in 1936. Like what does that look like? Like you can't just like do a whole lot. Like you can't. There's no point of reference to what that would look like.
Isn't that cartoon's like a extra on the Epic Mickey disc, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
Um, it's one of the ones like if they're gonna do a compilation, it typically finds its way
Oh
in
yeah.
there. It's just
It's
it's one of the big ones. It's
uh, I guess we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about kind of in passing the Tim Burton movies.
yeah. I mean, well, that's gonna be
Yeah.
part of the like because um, we'll get to some of that stuff because there's tons of other Disney
Yeah.
adaptation stuff. But we just gotta go through some of the history of like production and all that stuff. Uh, this movie really took off. Um, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked by reading about the 1933 Universal Alice in
You're
Wonderland.
like we're gonna shut the podcast down. I'm
Shut
gonna
it
go
down.
watch that one.
I'm gonna watch that, and we're gonna reconvene after I've watched that. Uh, so Alice in Wonderland is obviously one of the movies that got hurt because it was always on the docket for Walt. Um,
Right.
like he registered it early on by like before 1940. Um, and they start working on it, and they start like original reels and stuff are finished before the '40s started. And obviously, the '40s were not a great time for Disney. Um, and it was apparently going to be a really hard cartoon to make, and Walt didn't like the tone of the script. Thought it was too much, like too dark, too horrible. So
You, you can
the
kind of see
war,
why they did include some things. And, yeah.
yeah, based on there's some things that just like don't wouldn't adapt well, especially to a 1930s Disney studio.
Right.
So
Like again, the Jabberwocky would have been terrifying.
yeah. So World War II destroyed both the world's economy, the country's economy for a spell, and the studio's economy, and um, some of the other movies that they were working on. You have to have just a ton of resources, and they're working on so many movies at once. Like when you have a team working on Pinocchio and you have a team working on Fantasia, something's going to have to give. And Alice in Wonderland was the one that was shelved. Like they had like an early screening of like some of the pre-production stuff that they had working on, and it was just like there's too much work that needs to be done on this. Consider all things that were working on three other cartoons because Bambi would have been in there as well.
Right.
Um, so it's just like we're just going to shelve this one. And obviously, they don't come back to it for a few years after the war ends. Is when it's all hands on deck again. So 45 is when it's like war's over. You can start making movies again. So they're obviously working on um, the package features that we just finished talking about a couple weeks ago.
We promise them to speak of those again. JJ.
Yes. So now it's time to start working on the future stories. And so this is one of them. This is the okay, we need a new script because I didn't like the last script and we need to, you know, come up with some designs and stuff. And this is around the time when Mary Blair was doing a lot of work with the Walt Disney stuff. So if you look at like art books and stuff of movies that were coming in around at the time, Cinderella was one of them last time. Alice in Wonderland is Mary Blair um, works on a lot of that stuff, and you recognize Mary Blair's artwork from like a million miles away um, because she's done um, her her visuals are uh, it's a small world is basically like Mary Blair. Like that's her aesthetic.
The
Like
very
and she designed
soft look
the
to
very
it. Yeah.
soft, that very soft, rounded, and, a lot of like watercolory features and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's done a lot of other stuff. She did was Alice in Wonderland. I know she did Peter Pan, Song of the South, things like that. So she's done a lot of work for Disney, and she was um, yeah, she has a very personal relationship with the studio. So um, and I think Alice in Wonderland um, has of all of their movies has the most Mary Blair styling that they've made that she would have been involved with. It's got a lot of her. She's a background artist. That was like a
Yeah.
big. She was a background artist mostly. And you can really get that feeling in this movie more than any of the others.
Where it's like, yeah, because you get all this crazy scenery, and so it's like, we have this crazy hedge maze, and she's in these leaves, and all this other nonsense flying around.
Yeah, I think he was gonna make it. Like I was reading, and this was like I never knew this part of the history before, but he was thinking of doing like a live action animated version of it featuring Ginger Rogers, which I that seems kind of I don't know how old Ginger Rogers was in 19 this would have been in the 40s. I guess
Which,
yeah, let's see she was born in 1911, so boy, yeah, that wouldn't have been a great
mm,
yeah, that would have been a great Alice, but I mean at the time dance, you know.
yeah, because
So,
we're in the middle of the big musical era, so
um, but eventually it just that wasn't an option for Walt. Eventually, it's like you know what, it's too it doesn't do um, uh, the story justice. It doesn't like how I originally adapted them and everything. Like this needs to just be a cartoon, just outright cartoon.
yeah, because
Yeah,
live action, you're kind of limited as of what you can do.
yeah,
With like full blown animation, you can kind of go balls to the wall, so to speak, which they did.
yeah, yeah. They um yeah. I mean, and again, this isn't like the the Jabberwock doesn't appear in their version of it really. Like um uh I think there was originally it was like obviously everything at some point makes its way
Yeah,
into these stories, but like the mock turtle isn't there. There's
yeah.
no griffins. There's no um, like the book has like a white knight character. Um,
I think you're. I haven't. It's been a while since I've read that book, actually.
yeah, um, but yeah, it's I think they cut out for pacing purposes. Um, they did pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
it's much like Cinderella last week, where this movie doesn't waste your time really.
yeah,
It's like
no, it
boom,
good.
boom, boom. Here's the
Yeah,
story. We're gonna hit our beats.
yeah. I mean, I think of anything like it would have been nice to have the Jabberwocky poem in there,
Right.
but at the same time, like you already did I guess between the two, the Walrus and the Carpenter, um, probably the better choice of the two poems.
I suppose so. Yeah. And how would
Um,
you animate the Jabberwocky? Because
yeah,
it's kind of a revolting looking character.
yeah, it's that sort of like why it's hard to make why it's hard to adapt Lovecraft kind of stuff because it's how do you create something that's sort of uncreatable? You understand what I'm saying? Like
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't think creating the Jabberwocky was in the Disney wheelhouse,
No,
especially at this point in time.
because if they had done that wrong, it would have terrified people.
Yeah, I mean, I showed you that book that I have where they had like the previous versions of the Headless Horseman from
Oh
that
God,
stuff,
that thing is
and like,
metal as hell.
yeah, it's like it is, it really does. It's like a Megadeth cover. It's a flaming
Seriously.
skeleton on a, yeah, like some of these early concept arts could get really dark, but then
Yeah.
like you realize that it's like, well, that wouldn't play well in a cartoon, especially a
No,
cartoon from 1949, 1950, 1951, like whatever year you're in.
it's a very conservative society, and you're
Yeah,
like, here's this big black. I don't know, like I guess the Jabberwocky is like he kind of look like Frank the Bunny from Donnie Darko, I guess in a way.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's but yeah. This movie is like we'll start getting to some of the stuff that we like to usually touch down on with like we talk about the music. It's like you start off with the music. And I think we mentioned already, but like the Unbirthday song is like the best song in the movie because there's not really. This is more than any other Disney movie, sort of uh, the like compositions. It's not like songs. It's not like it's just background music.
The
It's
score is good. The score
score.
is very, very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all score, and there's only a couple of songs like um, Unbirthday song, and a Tea Party song, and a couple of other random songs. Like the intro song is like a jazz piano song
Yeah.
kind of thing. And
Alice.
yeah, I mean there were songs that were um, uh, there's other songs written for the movie that never made it. Obviously, they recorded a Jabberwock song,
Yeah.
um, but it never made its way out. But I mean, it made its way out eventually. Like you can it exists out there to listen to. A lot of things like a Humpty Dumpty song is out there too. Um,
Were these
one of
were
the
these were these released in the original soundtrack or not till years later?
Not until years later. I don't even
Okay.
know if they've ever officially released them, but obviously someone like myself hunts down things. Um, but maybe because Disney likes to put out like unused versions of things. Like I have for the 50th anniversary of Disneyland, they put out a massive 6 disc set
Hmm.
of Disney music, and it's very interesting because it's the 50th anniversary. But some of the versions of so it has um, Splash Mountain in its entirety from
Right.
start to finish, the whole ride. But it has the original rabbits after before you go up the hill.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the family is lamenting. There's used to be a song there that's very similar to if you've ever seen Song of the South. There's a song in there like one of these days he's gonna come walking through that door, and it's
Yeah.
set to that song. Oh, one of these days that rabbit is gonna come home. Um, but that's been changed throughout the years. But on this set for the 50th anniversary, they have that original version on there, and it's the same thing with Pirates of the Caribbean. The version of Pirates of the Caribbean they have on there, which is the whole ride again,
Yeah.
is the original one back when before they had to change some things because they were politically incorrect. Like it has the one pirate who has now in the Pirates of the Caribbean, it's the fat pirate that has the key in the map, and Johnny Depp is in the barrel behind him, looking over his shoulder. And but before that, it was he has like a woman's dress and like, oh, she be a feisty one kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's the original politically incorrect version, and like I don't know why they chose these versions, but Disney likes to change things up sometimes. Sometimes you get like alternate takes on these soundtracks and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if in some release of Alice in Wonderland that any of these showed up like unreleased
That's kind of what.
versions and stuff. So
Yeah. Because the most recent, I mean, I'm sure there's more recent examples, but the one I can think of is like did Mel Gibson have a full blown song for Pocahontas that was on the soundtrack and it wasn't in the movie?
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, it's just these things happen, and there's nothing like you can ever do about it. So,
Oh, we haven't
but they
had Mel
exist.
sing. Ugh.
Yeah, you play it, and it's like, oh, that's why he doesn't do musicals. Uh, but but yeah, so when the movie came out, Um, Not a hit. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say like failure, but it was a flop. It was certainly a flop. It was. It had a budget of 3 million, and its United States box office was 5.6. Not great,
So, so it made some profit, but probably
but
not
not enough, and not
not
Disney
enough.
money for sure.
No.
What made this movie like successful was that when they started doing TV, and it's one of the very first handful episodes of the Disneyland series features Alice in Wonderland, and that's where it got popular. That's where um, you know it became a thing. They're like, oh yeah, Alice in Wonderland's actually really good because more people saw it, obviously, because it's only like 3 TV channels and one of them is playing in Alice in Wonderland, so everyone can watch it now. And it's different then because there's the 50s, so it's in black and white, so you're losing a lot of the.
I can't even imagine watching it black and white. To be honest with you,
Yeah, yeah,
you lose so much.
you would lose so much watching this in black and white. But it was a massive deal, and obviously, um, and it's not a joke. It's not like it's this movie's like an acid trip during that sort of time, during that time frame of the psychedelics era,
Yeah,
as they call, like, it was a big movie. Like
yeah.
it gave.
We referenced Jefferson Airplane earlier. That's
Yeah.
White Rabbit is based on this movie.
Yes, absolutely. Like during the 70s, this movie had a huge resurgence in popularity because that's when people were doing this stuff, and this movie plays into that really well. Um, it was incredibly successful in the 70s in its theatrical releases. Um,
But the like college kids dropping acid and going to watch the movie.
yeah, I mean, like Disney was sort of promoting it that way too in the 70s when they were releasing it, like a little tongue in cheek, but like they knew, and they're like, just make money off of it.
You
I don't
buy
think.
tickets.
Yeah, yeah, and by this point, Walt's dead, so and the studio is sort of in its you know transition periods and stuff. So, um, but yeah, this was a big deal because, like, think of it again. This is 1951, so TV is brand new. So this is a movie. This is like Disney. Like, we can use TV to promote this movie. Like, we can use use this stuff to do that, to get all these uh, get people interested in this movie. Obviously, it didn't work as well as they had hoped, but they recognized the. But this movie um, did get that 1 hour in Wonderland,
Right.
like, which was a Coca-Cola sponsored TV special that sort of promoted this, and like it was a Christmas sort of deal, kind of like not Christmas obviously, but like Christmas specials. What I was going for with that, but like the TV special, like 1 hour, like
And
yeah,
our old pal Edgar Bergen shows up in this thing.
yeah, exciting, right?
Ugh.
But
This is like it was like an infomercial for the movie.
yeah, it is, and it's this is sort of TV was the Wild West. People didn't really know what to do with it at the time, so it's just throw everything at the wall, see what sticks to it. Like, so how do you promote a movie on TV that you want people to go see? It's sort of like this PBS style, like introducing people to the universe of Alice in Wonderland. It is funny to think that, like, 1 hour in Wonderland, and the movie itself is only like 15 minutes longer than the special would have been. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, it wasn't like there was a lot of fluff in 1 hour in Wonderland. Like,
yeah,
oh, we got to pad this thing out. Well, let's get Edgar Bergen in here.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I think that's on the home video release.
Yeah,
It's on one of them. I don't know if it. Usually they don't take special features away, so I'm assuming it's on the Blu-ray version too. If it was on the DVD version.
I I saw it on a popular streaming site and not too long ago. Just for like for reference for the show tonight. So
Yeah, it just had its 65th anniversary a couple of years ago, so they re-released it on Blu-ray just a couple of years ago, like
that's
2 years
great.
ago. Yeah,
It's
it's
just
crazy to think
it's
that it's.
65, but it looks so good for its age.
I think anything more than anything else that we're going to get during sort of the Walt Disney being around era of cartoons, it's the one that feels more contemporary than anything else.
Yeah,
It feels very it feels more modern than anything. It feels like it's because it's just weird enough to where it's like this could have been like something that aired on like Cartoon Network or something, or like some sort of
yeah.
production, like modern day production. Um,
I mean, you get the sense that it's probably turn of the century England
yeah,
based on like what her mom's wearing and what
yeah.
she's
Well,
wearing.
because
But still, you know,
like what the books came out in the 18 mid 1800s, 1860,
yeah,
1860, 1870, something like that.
right,
So, I mean, that's I was assuming that's where I'm assuming it's contemporary to its time when the
yeah.
book came out, and so I'm assuming that the cartoon is, because the design of Alice is like the dress is almost spot on how based on the book's sort of illustrations and stuff. So like,
And her dress is iconic. And when you think of Alice in Wonderland,
yeah,
like that blue
uh,
and that weird apron looking
yeah,
dress.
yeah, like yeah, house like house hand kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's
um, but yeah, so it's funny when you like get, because I remember getting like when Dumbo first came out on DVD, and like like when you look at like the 60th anniversary of Dumbo, and you're like, how is that possible? How is
yeah.
this movie that old? It's only sure enough it is. Um, but yeah, I mean it wasn't particularly well received when it came out. Um, not for like the animation and everything. It was more of a Disney did what Disney does. They took this book, this English novel,
Mhm.
and made it as American as possible. While
American.
yeah, and
Do
he knew
you?
that. He knew that. He knew that was going to happen. There was no like you read like notes and stuff from them and stuff, and it's like they knew that's like, well, we want this to be as broad as possible, and you know it's America in the 50s. There's still xenophobia is still a thing, to
Yeah,
this day. So you get things even to this day that come out that are like, it's like, well, like Last Airbender or something. It's like, it's all these people are white. You made all these people just like you stripped out their original character, and and to try to feature as broad an audience as possible. You make a movie based off of a Japanese cartoon and cast a white person or something. Because you want to reach a broad audience, and I think it works better here because it's a white person in a cartoon regardless.
yeah.
And
It,
it's like you didn't really, and it's like they're still drinking tea and she still talks with an accent and stuff, so it's like you didn't strip away the British part of it.
you're not
But
turning Japanese samurai into cowboys.
yeah, but at the same time you're also not appreciating um, like what makes British literature kind of stuff, like England and stuff, because you know their way of telling a story and an American way, especially in the 50s of telling a story, don't match. Like
No,
so of course you're going to irritate those people when an American company takes a English thing and makes it creates a broad appeal for around the world kind of situation.
the British are known for their absurdist humor
Yeah.
and their observation.
Um, uh, Leonard Maltin um, said uh, that one of the animators, Ward Kimball, was the
Hmm.
animator. That the reason it failed is because there were too many cooks in the kitchen, because this movie has 5 directors.
Oh, good God.
Yeah, and typically when you have a movie that has, you know, 2 directors can be an issue, but people can make it work. Five
There are
directors,
some recent
some
examples of that.
yeah, 5 directors is absurd, especially for a cartoon. You don't need 5 directors, um, and all these directors are trying to outdo each other on the zany. They feel they can get away with it a little more because there's no strict continuity you have to follow in Alice in Wonderland. So they're just constantly trying to um, uh, outdo one another.
The chaos kind of lends itself to the nature of this movie.
Yeah,
You think about it.
Walt explicitly says himself that the reason this movie failed is because it lacked any heart, and I
I
buy
kind of
that.
see that.
I get that, but you don't know that. Like, especially the thing with like too many directors made this movie a failure. Not enough heart made this movie a failure. It doesn't change the fact that nobody wanted to go see it.
Yeah.
You only know it doesn't have heart if you saw it yourself, and
And then told other people not to go see it.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, it's a Disney cartoon. It's not really like, it's just the time and the place probably killed it more than anything else. You come off of Cinderella just a year prior, probably less than a year. I forget what month Cinderella came out, but this was summer Cinderella. Like, you're not too far removed from that one. And Cinderella was a massive success, critical success. People loved it. Had music stuff, and people were still a thing. And then you followed up with Alice in Wonderland, which is a completely different kind of thing. You can tell just by, like, if you watch early trailer for it or anything, you can tell, like, it doesn't have the same sort of fairy tale. I think fairy tale is sort of the big problem. Like, you could tell watching it, like, it's not um, it's not a fairy tale at all. And there's no way to hide the fact that it's not. And I think that's what most people, when people want to go to these cartoons, that's what they're looking for. And you could tell that with Alice in Wonderland, especially since it's a popular book. Like, what Alice in Wonderland is. It's not Cinderella going into it. It's Alice in Wonderland. It's Alice through the Looking Glass. It's that stuff. So it's surreal. It's zany. It's weird, and Fantasia didn't work. Why would And that's the same thing. It's surreal. It's weird. It's zany, and nobody went to go see it. It's the same thing here. I think in 1951, people didn't want to see that kind of movie. If this movie came out 10 years later, maybe.
Yeah.
It might have been more successful. But by the time you hit the 60s, I think people probably would have been more into the concept of Alice in Wonderland. But
I wonder if it's not remembered more fun, because this might just be, but I kind of get the sense it's not remembered super fondly. Like, people like it, but it's not talked about a lot.
That's what I'm saying. Like, because
it was sandwiched between Cinderella and Peter Pan.
Yeah,
and you think about those two movies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Alice in Wonderland is more of a pop culture touchstone than anything else.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, it exists in the Disney canon as this characters. It's all just lines and moments. It doesn't exist. It doesn't really exist as a movie so much as it exists as a property. Because there's no movie there. I'm being hard on it because I really do like this. I do like watching this. But I'm being a little overly critical. But there's no movie here. It's just a series of images that sort of are played out with. It's like it plays like a theme park ride,
or like one of the package features we just watched in a way.
Yeah. Like each scene could just be its own package, and the central conceit is a girl fell asleep and now she's wandering to different shorts, kind of thing. It's like that's how it sort of plays off. There's very little connective tissue other than Alice herself is the only connective tissue.
Maybe the rabbit.
Scene to scene to scene. Yeah, but that's just usually plays out with she's following the rabbit, and once she gets there to where the rabbit was, the short takes place.
Yeah.
Then that's over, and then she's going off to find the rabbit again. And when she gets to the rabbit again, the short takes place.
Yeah.
And there's very little yeah, but that's the book, and it's fine. And I think, and it works. I mean, this movie works for what it is. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's enjoyable to watch. It's absolutely stunning animation. But you know, it's there's a reason why it's not like a top tier movie. But it's great nonetheless.
The lasting legacy of this movie is probably the animation more than anything.
Yes,
Like if you
yes,
think about
absolutely.
like the story, you're like, oh yeah, that thing happened.
Uh,
But God, that part was really cool looking.
yeah, like 100%. Like uh, you mentioned Alice in Wonderland. Cheshire Cat is like the thing. Like that's the part that everyone remembers is the Cheshire Cat, like line. I'm late for a very important date kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But like the Cheshire Cat is like it's a stunning visual. You can see it shows up everywhere. You think about it. It's on T-shirts. It's on collectibles. It's on purses and ornaments. And you go to Disneyland. There's always a Cheshire Cat, new Cheshire Cat painted something.
Yeah.
Because it's also it's pink on purple. It's like a very striking colors. Um,
The
so,
Mad Hatter is also like the other iconic character, I would say.
yeah, yeah. So it makes sense when we'll get to now. Now it's time to go into um, its sort of aftermath here because there's no like sequel, but Disney
Mm.
Disney did go and make two live action adaptations of this movie, and you know varying success.
Wait, well, now I do want to talk about one thing though. There's no
Yeah.
sequel, but you remember we talked about Bill earlier, the chimney.
Oh, yeah.
Bill was one of Radigan's henchmen in the Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah.
So Bill lived, people. He's alive.
It's the Disney cinematic universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, in 2010, Tim Burton made a live action adaptation. It's like it's this weird thing where it's like it's not a remake of Alice in Wonderland, and it's
No.
not, and um, it's also not um, like a remake of the book because it's like you know she's like 19 and this is all kind of like weird like pseudo sequely kind of stuff in a way and
Yeah. It's
like
it's not like what he did with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where it's
yeah
like I'm not gonna base off the book really or
yeah
the original, but I'm gonna kind of do my own thing.
yeah it's like I'm basing it it's closer to the book than the original version but I'm also still not making the book
Yeah.
um, and it's it's too much. I don't know, have you seen it?
I've seen the first one, yeah.
it's it's too much for me, I
It's
think. Like
very Tim Burton-y.
it's very Tim Burton and I don't hate that. I like a lot of Tim Burton stuff.
It's like Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
Jay and I both love Beetlejuice and
yeah, Beetlejuice
Batman,
and
Edward Scissorhands.
Edward Scissorhands.
But
Nightmare Before Christmas is fantastic,
yeah,
but that's just his visuals. It's not like he made that movie. But,
this just sounds. It sounds too. There's no really good way for me to say this about this movie. It just feels really hot topicy. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, it feels like everything was sort of designed to sell um, Alice in Wonderland as a property. You know what I mean? Like everything is
Yeah.
like, um, but it's certainly no Pee Wee's Big Adventure. That I can tell you.
No, no,
Um,
God, that movie's amazing.
um, but um, but yeah, uh, I don't like the look of it. I think that's my
It's
major problem. Like I'm in a weird minority where I actually enjoy Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I think the sort of Tim Burton visuals works for what they're trying to do with it.
right.
I also hate that it is a movie that like lives and dies around Johnny Depp in this role of the Mad Hatter.
Yeah.
Like every bit of merchandising, every bit of promotional, everything. Like this minor character is might as well be the main character if you just based off of everything that you saw go before going into the movie. And um,
Uh, the other thing you'll see Helen Bonham Carter as the queen
yeah,
on posters, but Alice is secondary
yeah,
apparently.
yeah, yeah, and ooh, that queen in the live action Alice in Wonderland is a nightmare
Yeah,
because it's Helen Bonham Carter, but they they CGI'd her head, so it's her head, but they made it like 4 times bigger than it really is.
she's,
And
she's got DK mode on the whole time.
yeah, yeah, it's um, and Crispin Glover's in it. Like got Crispin Glover into this movie, huh?
Wait, who is he? Who is he in the movie?
The Knave of Hearts.
Okay,
But
yeah.
um,
Sorry, McFly. Not gonna.
yeah, it's and they've made a sequel called Alice Through the Looking Glass, which is
Never,
obviously what
which I have not seen.
I've not seen that one either because why would I? I didn't particularly care for the first one. Um, but it's obviously it's named after the second book, so it's Through the
Yeah,
Looking Glass, the second book from
we're through the Looking
Lewis
Glass.
Carroll. Yes,
Reverse vampires.
reverse vampires. We are the Looking Glass people. Um, but yeah, so yeah, you have no direct, you have no legitimate sequels, Nick.
No, no,
but you,
no,
but
no.
you do have two remakes, which is going to become a very clearly going to have to become a theme. Like what used to be the Disney's making direct to video sequels of everything they can get their hands on. Now it's Disney's making theatrical live action or photorealistic remakes of whatever property they can think of that they can make that work with. So
Is that's the edict from Lasseter, right?
uh, yeah, must have been.
Yeah,
so, but so yeah, everything because we just got some um, photos from live action Aladdin
right. We talked about Cinderella live action last week.
last week, and and so obviously we have two live action Alice in Wonderland adaptations from Disney. Um, Video game wise, uh, no
Kingdom
no
Hearts.
no game strictly based on um, Alice in Wonderland, but like we mentioned earlier, um, Mousecapades features characters.
Yeah,
Um, Epic Mickey obviously features a lot of characters from this one. Um,
not Alice herself, really.
no, but like Cheshire Cat, Queen of Hearts,
Yeah,
um, and stuff like that. So yeah, and Disney Infinity appeared on that stuff, and um, Kingdom Hearts obviously. We're
yeah.
just a few weeks away from a third Kingdom Hearts, so
I've not played any of them.
it's probably too late.
We'll talk off air about whether or not I should play Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
Spoilers,
but
I probably won't.
it's this. It's look at that. If that's a 5-part podcast series about Kingdom Hearts and what any of it means.
Should
But
Nick play Kingdom Hearts, the podcast?
yeah,
It's gonna
like
be
if
like
you,
cereal.
yeah, yeah, it's I like yeah, that's a conversation that if you thought the conversation we had about McDonald's earlier was, uh, got us off track, this one definitely.
Do you like Final Fantasy and Disney, or just one of those things? I don't know.
If you just like one of those things, I have some bad news.
I
You're
like
not.
one of those things, and spoilers, it ain't Final Fantasy.
But so yeah, it appears heavily in video
Yeah.
games,
Not to
and
mention,
always will.
and not to mention the other non-Disney, like American McGee, Alice.
Yeah, exactly. American McGee's Alice is another um, the weird, dark, like what if Alice was mentally ill and all of this is just the crazed
Yeah,
delusions of a teenager in an orphanage.
and of course we will not go into detail for Alan Moore's Lost Girls.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't Google it. Don't do it.
Don't,
Do it.
don't. Yeah. You don't need those targeted ads.
No, sir. No, sir.
But yeah, but
Yeah, but
also it has a theme park ride.
it does. Yeah.
It's it's funny. I've only ridden that a couple of times. It's just kind of tucked away in the corners of Fantasyland, so it's sort of like I
I
don't.
don't know that I've ever read it.
It is
Read,
ri-
wrote it.
wrote
It's
it,
read it. I haven't.
read it.
I haven't read it either.
Yeah, but it's
Ugh.
significant in a stupid little way where it goes outside for a small section, which is not a dark ride thing.
But you
Like
can hear the song. Like you can hear the song as you're walking around the park.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Alice in Wonderland stuff is everywhere at the theme park because you also have the teacups,
Yeah.
which is the Mad Hatter's teacup. So you have
It,
two Alice in Wonderland rides at Disneyland.
the
And
teacups, maybe the most. I would say the top three most iconic Disneyland rides. Maybe.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Like even maybe not even like rides, but like iconography, like
Yeah.
Castle, Matterhorn, teacups,
Yeah.
churros, and turkey legs.
Dumbo. Dumbo.
Dumbo, the flying
Yeah.
elephant. Yeah, be like just like in terms of iconography, it's right up there with the mountains and stuff. So. Because Pirates of the Caribbean is like it's a great ride, but there's no iconography like in terms of like park map stuff because there's
Yeah.
no real the show building is just sort of tucked away and for an average park goer, try picturing what the haunted mansion looks like. It's it's a mansion and it looks spooky, but you couldn't really could you know really picture it in your mind's eye unless you've been there 100 times or something like an annual pass holder or me. Like
What's the queue for the teacup ride? It's like it's got to be like I think last time I was there it was like an hour 45.
yeah, it's usually it hovers around 90 minutes
Yeah.
consistently. It's got high turnover, but because the ride's not long and
No.
like it's only got a handful of cars on it, but it doesn't have a lot of it's not like a roller coaster where it could just be a steady stream of cars because like the load unload is real fast on it and stuff, so it has pretty good turnover and they reuse sort of mechanisms for that like the what else like the Roger Rabbit ride has the same kind of ride mechanic on
Yeah.
the caps and stuff, so yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, so you got two theme park rides at Disneyland, and she appears in character. Those characters appear everywhere. Mad Hatter and all that stuff, and Alice, and
It, it,
in all the parades, and like she was like a major part of the electric parade, the Main Street Electric Parade, and Fantasmic. There's segments and stuff. Like it has like I said, it is in terms of just iconography of movies. It's easily probably most exploitable that they have, and they take full advantage of it.
isn't Alice in Small World for England?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. One of the little puppets is an Alice puppet.
Yeah.
So, and I think one of the other theme parks, I think it might be Paris, probably Paris, has a hedge maze based on Alice in Wonderland.
That'd be kind of cool. I would just pretend I was Jack Torrance the whole time though. Daddy,
Just
Daddy.
just charging through the maze with an axe.
I should never go there.
Nah, you'll never be allowed back into Paris in general. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's lots of fun
Yeah.
stuff. The Alice in Wonderland, again, it's absolutely one of the most exploitable, and I don't mean that in an overtly negative way. Exploiting makes it sound bad, but I don't mean it that way. I mean it's like it just has these iconic,
It's marketable.
marketable, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's easy to do that. And Alice stuff appears in just like everything. Like the March Hare was in Bonkers, that cartoon
Yeah.
that, and um, you get a bunch of those characters in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and um,
Like I mentioned, bells and
the opening of Aladdin
the
when you have
hookah.
the hookah. That's the caterpillar's hookah that the
Yeah,
peddler
yeah,
has at the
yeah.
beginning of Aladdin. And
We just got an Alice minifigure in the Lego Disney set.
yeah,
Yeah.
So, it's, and it's great. And it appears in, House of Mouse and all that other Mickey Mouse children's stuff and things like. And like I said, Ed Bill is in Great Mouse Detective. So like
Right.
this, like again, it's in terms of just pure visuals. Like this, it has legs to just sort of be able to appear. It's appeared in two other like theatrical films in some way, shape, or form. Like it appeared in The Great Mouse Detective, and it appears in Aladdin. Uh, it appears in one of the Aladdin sequels, like the genie turns into a white rabbit in one of the Aladdin sequels, and it appears in Roger Rabbit, it appears in Bonkers, and it appears in like
Oh, the
yeah, just
door. The door appears in Roger Rabbit, right? The doorknob.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, and I think you see, I think Cheshire Cat has a little bit
He's.
part and stuff.
I know he's shown up in House of Mouse once or twice.
Yeah, but yeah, like so, Disney knows what they're doing with Alice. Like, it may not be probably one of their all-time best, but it's in terms of like visually, they know how to exploit it and market it. It works out for them.
They what bits and pieces work as far as like selling merch.
Yeah. So I guess we should get to the sort of final step of the episode, and we pull up our lists,
Yeah.
where we break down. Uh, we rank them. We're ranking them every week. When we're done, we're gonna add another one to the pile and see where it rests in the in the listings. And so now this will be number 13. So now it's a top 13 list. Uh, we're gonna see where it lands for you here, Nick. So your number one movie, I'm going to assume, is still Dumbo. I'm assuming
Yes.
you. Do you like it more or less than Fantasia?
I like it less than Fantasia.
More or less than Ichabod and Mr. Toad?
That's a tough one. I'm gonna go less than Ichabod.
Okay, what about Fun and Fancy Free?
It's better than Fun and Fancy Free,
Better than Fun and Fancy Free.
even though it's also a package feature in a way, but still.
Yeah, but the Mickey and the Beanstalk is just so perfect.
Yeah, but if you think of like Fun and Fancy Free and this movie, which had the creepier party? Which had the creepier birthday party?
Touche, touche. Um, I'm going to put so on my list. My number one is Fantasia.
Forever.
Forever, not forever. Maybe I don't know. We'll see when we get
That's
there.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We'll see. We'll see when we get there, and I can officially like rank it. I like it.
Spoilers. It's Atlantis.
It's Meet the Robinsons, and you know that. Um, I like it less than Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I like it less than Pinocchio. I like it more than Dumbo. So I'm gonna put it right above here. So let's see, Alice. So it is my one, two, three. It is my number five, and this is your number four. So
Cool.
pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saluto's just going to keep on getting
There,
pushed down to oblivion.
yes. Spoiler alert. I will never say anything is worse. Well, you know,
Get
no.
back to us in about 60,
Yeah,
40 weeks or so.
yeah, in a good, yeah, in a couple of decades, there's some contenders that um, I've only seen once, and there's a reason for that. I've at least seen Saludos Amigos twice or three times, I think overall. but yeah, there's some contenders for those. And
Boy, is there.
But but yeah, but until then, I want to thank you all for joining us once more. We're recording this just a couple days before Christmas. Um, so also, uh, just before you're gonna listen to this episode, I will have dropped a special Christmas treat. I'm not going to spoil it here because in case you listen to this first, but there is a special Christmas episode that we recorded that is not following the chronology like this podcast does, and it's it's a nice Christmas episode that I think you'll all enjoy. Um, so listen to that too. That's we had a lot of fun doing that one. It was a personal favorite.
We
Probably one of the. It was a funner episode because we didn't really have to follow our guidelines too much. And
we enjoyed the hell out of it.
yeah, it was fun, especially considering when we recorded it, because I think we
Yeah.
recorded it after. I want to say probably it was either Melody Time or Make My Music. I can't remember. It was one
Yeah.
of those two. It was
Yeah.
one of those two. Recorded it after that, and coming off of watching those and then
So we
watching
were thrilled to do it.
we were thrilled to do it because not only is it one of Disney's um, absolute best shorts of all time, it was also at a time when we were watching some of the absolute worst shorts of all time. So it's a double whammy. So, but yeah, so please listen to that one too. It was fun, and it's a short film from Disney that we both just absolutely adore. And to be perfectly honest, if it was part of this list that we're doing, it would be a contender.
And it would be a strong contender.
Yes, but yeah, please listen to that one and have a Merry Christmas. And I want you to all to just join us next week, because next week we are covering Peter Pan.
You will believe a man can fly.
Wrong movie, but we should just have that score playing through the entire background of next week's episode.
Just put a thumbnail of the Peter Pan peanut butter.
Listen, I will defend Peter Pan peanut butter with my life.
Hey, Joe's a Peter Pan peanut butter and wash it down with Donald Duck orange juice, people.
Absolutely. Still, both of those things are still very much available to this day, and I'm thrilled to death about it. But so next week, load up on Peter Pan peanut butter and Donald Duck orange juice and join us for Peter Pan. But until then, have a magical day.
Bye.